To begin our project, we're going to take our styrofoam plate and we're going to cut out the center flat portion of the plate. And you just want to use your scissors and make sure that it's only the flat part that's left with your styrofoam. And you don't have to worry if it's perfectly round. You can trim it up a little bit later. You just want to make sure that it's not bigger than the piece of paper that you're going to be printing on. Then you're going to start with your ballpoint pen and you're going to push hard on the styrofoam. You want to practice on the scrap piece of styrofoam. Just practice, see how much pressure it takes to make an indentation on the foam. You definitely don't want to poke it all the way through. At the same time, you don't want to press too lightly, because if you press too lightly, then the markings won't show when you're printing and adding ink. Okay, we're going to start by drawing our design, and of course this is fast forward, but every time I use the pen I'm pushing hard, making sure it makes an indentation. I'm doing a symmetrical design, and I'm not going to add too much detail because the detail is going to get lost in the ink. So don't spend a lot of time drawing tiny things. Make it a bold pattern. Next, you want to trim the edge. Just clean it up a little bit, make sure it fits your square, and you can create any special effects on the outer edge. Place your styrofoam on the 5.5-inch square to make sure it fits within the edges. Now choose your first two colors that you're going to apply the first ink color to. Okay, now we're going to get ready to make our first print. You're going to have an adult helping with the ink. You're going to put it on your flat piece of plastic, and you're going to take your brayer and you're going to work the ink onto the brayer. The idea is not to spread the ink all over the piece of plastic, but rather put the ink all over the roller, nicely smooth and even. And once you feel like you've got a good coat of the ink, then you're going to take your foam piece and you're going to cover it with ink. And when you're rolling it on the foam piece, just make sure that you cover all the areas. You don't want to put so much ink on it that it fills the gaps. You want to be able to see some white, like you can see here. Once you're happy with that, you're going to pick it up, take it back to your table, pick your color square, gently lay it on there, and start pressing. Once you've touched the foam, you can't pick it up and move it or your print will be smeared. So lay it gently down there and then start rubbing around the edges. Not too hard. You don't want to squeeze the ink into the holes of your foam piece. You just want to transfer the ink onto your paper. When you're satisfied, lift it up, and there you go. There's your first print. Now you're going to take your foam piece back to the inking station, and you're going to put your second coat of the same color onto your foam piece. Again, just roll it, make sure you've covered it well and have gotten the edges, and you can get ready to do your second ink. Walk back to your desk, chosen your next color. Make sure that it's about in the same position as you did your first color, and then gently press. Make sure that you don't have any air bubbles. Remember, don't press too hard. We don't want to squeeze the ink into the cracks. Just make sure it's touching the paper. And then gently peel it back up, and you've got your second piece. When you're done, you're going to take your foam sheet to the sink, rinse it off really well, and make sure it's nice and dried for the next color. Now I've sped up the film for this, but you can see again how I'm doing the process. Making sure that the entire foam piece is covered evenly, making sure it's lined up with the edges of my square, making sure there's no air bubbles, going back and adding more of the same colored ink, choosing a different color, making sure there's no air bubbles. Then you're going to set them aside and let them dry. When they're finished drying, then you can mount them on the black 12 by 12 inch piece of paper. And you want to arrange them so that the two colors are on the diagonal. So you can see here the red that's on the green and the red that's on the yellow are on the diagonal.